Picture this, a young man sitting in a cramped apartment staring at yet another rejection letter. His bank account shows $2.47. His refrigerator contains nothing but expired milk and a half-eaten sandwich, and his dreams of becoming a filmmaker seem more distant than ever. This wasn't just any struggling artist. This was James Cameron, future director of Titanic and Avatar. At his lowest point, but let me back up a bit, Cameron wasn't born into privilege. Growing up in a small Canadian town, he was fascinated by science fiction and special effects, spending hours drawing intricate mechanical designs and dreaming of worlds beyond his reality. His father worked as an electrical engineer, and his mother was an artist. Perhaps that's where he got his unique blend of technical precision and creative vision after high school. Cameron didn't follow the traditional path to Hollywood. Instead, he drove a truck for a living, working odd jobs to pay the bills. But here's the thing about dreams. They don't care about your day job. Every night after his shifts, Cameron would come home exhausted. But instead of collapsing on a couch, he'd sit at his makeshift desk and work on screenplays, sketch out storyboards, and teach himself about filmmaking through books and magazines. The turning point came in 1977 when Cameron saw Star Wars walking out of the theater. He felt something had died inside him. He knew with absolute certainty that he had to be part of creating worlds like that, but knowing what you want and getting it are two completely different things. Cameron's first break came through sheer determination and a willingness to work for free. He heard that Roger Corman's studio was making low-budget sci films, so he showed up at their door with a portfolio of his artwork. The studio head took one look at his detailed mechanical drawings and hired him, not as a director but as a model maker for $10 a day. $10 a day, that's barely enough to buy lunch nowadays, but Cameron treated that job like he was directing the biggest blockbuster in Hollywood. He worked 18-hour days, learning every aspect of filmmaking. He studied how cameras worked, how special effects were created, how sets were built. He befriended the editors and watched them work late into the night. He absorbed everything like a sponge. His colleagues thought he was crazy. "Why are you working so hard for peanuts?" they'd ask. But Cameron understood something that many people don't. Every job is a stepping stone if you choose to see it that way. He wasn't just making models, he was building his future. The first major test of his resolve came when he was promoted to special effects director on a film called Battle Beyond the Stars. The previous director had quit, leaving the project in chaos. The studio was desperate, and Cameron saw his chance. He convinced them to let him take over, despite having no formal directing experience. What happened next was a master class in learning. Under pressure, Cameron had to direct complex action sequences, manage a team of technicians, and solve countless technical problems, all while staying with an impossibly tight budget. There were moments when everything seemed to fall apart. Equipment would break down, actors would storm off set, and studio executives would threaten to pull the plug. But here is what separated Cameron from everyone else. He never gave up. When a piece of equipment broke, he'd figure out how to fix it or build a replacement. When an actor had a problem with the script, he'd rewrite it on the spot. When the studio questioned his decisions, he'd work twice as hard to prove them wrong. The film was completed on time and under budget, but more importantly, it proved that Cameron could handle the pressure of directing. Word spread quickly in Hollywood's tight-knit community. Here was a guy who could deliver results, no matter how impossible the circumstances seemed. His next opportunity came with The Terminator. Cameron had written a script after a fever dream where he envisioned a metal skeleton emerging from flames. The concept was brilliant, but convincing a studio to fund it was another matter entirely. Every major studio passed on the project. They thought it was too dark, too violent, too weird. Cameron faced a choice that many creative people encounter: compromise his vision to get funding or stick to his guns and risk everything. He chose to risk everything, with a budget of just $6.4 million. Parka changed by Hollywood standards, Cameron set out to create something extraordinary. He cast an unknown Austrian bodybuilder named Arnold Schwarzenegger as the villainous cyborg. Studio executives were skeptical. Schwarzenegger could barely speak English without a thick accent, and his acting experience was limited to a few B-movies, but Cameron saw something in Schwarzenegger that others missed. He understood that the Terminator wasn't supposed to be a traditional villain. He was supposed to be an unstoppable force of nature. Schwarzenegger's imposing physical presence and mechanical delivery weren't weaknesses. They were perfect for the role. The filming process was grueling. Cameron pushed everyone to their limits, including himself. He'd worked 20-hour days sleeping on the editing room floor between takes. His attention to detail was obsessive. He'd reshoot scenes dozens of times until they met his impossibly high standards. The studio executives grew increasingly nervous. They checked the dailies and wondered what they'd gotten themselves into. The film looked unlike anything they'd seen before, darker, more intense, more realistic than typical sci-fi movies. Then came the moment that would define Cameron's career. During post-production, the studio wanted to cut several key scenes to make the film more commercially viable. They were particularly concerned about the film's ending, which they thought was too ambiguous. Cameron refused to make the cuts. He locked himself in the editing room and worked around the clock to prove that his version was the right one. He knew that compromising his vision would result in a mediocre film that satisfied no one. The standoff lasted for weeks. Studio executive Gove threatened to fire him. Lawyers got involved, but Cameron held firm. He'd rather see his career end than watch his film be butchered. Finally, the studio relented. The Terminator was released exactly as Cameron envisioned it. The film became a massive hit, earning over $78 million worldwide and launching both Cameron and Schwarzenegger to stardom. But more importantly, it established Cameron as a director who wouldn't compromise his artistic vision for commercial considerations. South brought new challenges. With his newfound reputation, Cameron was offered bigger budgets and more prestigious projects. But he quickly learned that more money often meant more interference from studio executives who wanted to control every aspect of production. His next major project, Aliens, tested his resolve once again. The studio wanted a simple action movie, Alien, with more guns and explosions. Cameron had a different vision. He wanted to create a war movie that happened to be set in space, sacrifice, and survival. The production was plagued with problems from day one. The British crew, accustomed to more relaxed working conditions, clashed with Cameron's demanding American style. They'd take tea breaks in the middle of crucial scenes, causing expensive delays. Some crew members openly questioned his authority such a large production. Cameron's response was characteristically direct. He called a meeting with the entire crew and laid out his expectations. He explained his vision for the film and made it clear that anyone who couldn't commit to excellence should leave immediately. Several crew members walked out, but those who stayed became part of something special. The filming process pushed everyone to their limits. Cameron demanded dozens of takes for crucial scenes, perfecting every detail. The iconic sequence where Ripley fights the alien queen required weeks of preparation and multiple camera angles. Many crew members worked 18-hour days to capture Cameron's vision, but the hard work paid off. Aliens became both a critical and commercial success. Earning over $180 million, the film proved that Cameron could handle big-budget productions without losing his art merit. His next challenge was even greater: Titanic. The project seemed doomed from the start. The budget ballooned to over $200 million, making it the most expensive film ever made at the time. Studio executives were terrified. They'd invested everything in a movie about a ship that everyone knew would sink. Cameron's obsession with historical accuracy. He insisted on building a nearly full-scale replica of the Titanic, complete with authentic period details. The ship set was so large that it could be seen from space. Every costume, every piece of furniture, every technical detail had to be historically accurate. The filming process was a nightmare. Actors worked in freezing water for hours at a time. The massive ship set was constantly breaking down. Cameron's perfectionism drove everyone to exhaustion. Cast and crew members openly complained about the brutal working conditions. Kate Winslet, who played Rose, later said that filming Titanic was the most physically and emotionally demanding experience of her career. She'd spend entire days soaking wet in near-freezing water, repeating emotionally intense scenes dozens of times until Cameron was satisfied. Despite being relatively new to major film productions, embraced Cameron's demanding style. He understood that they were creating something unprecedented, a film that combined spectacular visual effects with intimate human drama. But the real test came during post-production. The film's final cut was over 3 hours long, unprecedented for a mainstream Hollywood movie, such a long film. Especially one about a tragedy. Everyone knew the ending. Cameron refused to budge. He'd spent years perfecting every scene, every shot, every moment of the film. Cutting it down would destroy the emotional journey he'd carefully constructed. The studio threatened to release the film without his approval. Cameron responded by offering to give up his director's fee and profit participation if the film failed. He was willing to sacrifice millions of dollars to protect his artistic vision. Titanic was released in December 1997 to massive critical and commercial success. It became the highest-grossing film of all time, earning over $2.2 billion worldwide. The film won 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Cameron. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Cameron's journey was what happened next. Instead of resting on his laurels, he spent the next 12 years developing his next project. Avatar Water represented the ultimate test of Cameron's philosophy. He was essentially betting his entire career on a film that required technology that didn't exist yet. The story was set on an alien world, populated by blue-skinned humanoids. Every frame of the film would require groundbreaking visual effects. Cameron had to invent new camera systems, develop new computer graphics techniques, and create an entirely new language for the alien characters. The project was so ambitious that many industry insiders thought he'd finally bitten off more than he could chew. Cameron worked with teams of scientists, linguists, and technology experts to create a believable alien world. He developed new motion capture technology that could record actors' facial expressions with unprecedented detail. He created new 3D camera systems that would revolutionize how movies were filmed throughout this process. Actors struggled to perform in the motion capture suits. Technical problems seemed insurmountable, but Cameron's years of experience had taught him that impossible is just another word for difficult. Every problem had a solution. It just required creativity, persistence, and the willingness to work harder than anyone else. Avatar was released in 2009 and became the highest-grossing film of all time, earning over $2.9 billion worldwide. The film's groundbreaking visual effects revolutionized the movie industry and inspired countless other filmmakers to push the boundaries of what was possible. Looking back at Cameron's journey, it's tempting to focus on the glamorous moments, the Academy Awards, the box office records. But the real story is found in the countless hours of unglamorous work that preceded those moments. Cameron's success wasn't the result of luck or natural talent alone. It was the product of unwavering determination, relentless work ethic, and the courage to pursue his vision, even when everyone else thought he was crazy. It's a choice you make every single day. It's the choice to work harder when everyone else goes home. It's the choice to solve problems instead of complaining about them. It's the choice to maintain your standards even when it would be easier to compromise. Cameron's story teaches us that the distance between dreams and reality is measured not in miles, but in the willingness to do whatever it takes to bridge that gap. Every rejection letter, every 18-hour workday, every moment of doubt was a step closer to his ultimate goal. The young man who once sat in that cramped apartment staring at rejection letters with $2.47 in his bank account never gave up on his vision. He understood that success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about learning from failure and using it as fuel for future success. James Cameron is recognized as one of the most innovative and successful directors in Hollywood history. His films have earned over $6 billion worldwide and inspired countless other filmmakers to push the boundaries of their craft. But perhaps the most important lesson from Cameron's journey is this: that cramped apartment, that rejection letter, that empty bank account, those were just temporary conditions, not permanent limitations. The only thing that truly matters is your willingness to keep moving forward, no matter how difficult the path becomes, because on the other side of every obstacle, every setback, every moment of doubt, lies the possibility of something extraordinary. James Cameron's story proves that dreams don't have expiration dates. It's never too late to start, never too late to change direction, and never too late to achieve something remarkable. All it takes is the courage to take that first step and the determination to keep taking steps until you reach your destination. The difference between dreamers and achievers isn't talent or luck. It's the willingness to turn dreams into plans and plans into reality. Cameron's journey from truck driver to Hollywood legend proves that with enough determination, creativity, and hard work, any dream is possible. His story continues to inspire new generations of filmmakers, artists, and dreamers who face their own moments of doubt and uncertainty. When they're sitting in their own cramped apartments, staring at their own rejection letters, they can remember that even the most successful people start exactly where they are now. The only question is, what will you do with your own moment of doubt? Will you let it stop you, or will you use it as fuel to push yourself further than you ever thought possible? James Cameron chose to push forward, and that choice changed not just his life, but the entire landscape of modern cinema.